And over to you, Lee, and so I'll let you introduce yourself and, yeah, invite us if you may. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Well, for those of you who don't know who I am and what I do, my name is Lee Dixon, and I volunteer with Haircuts for Homeless. It was started by our founder. I didn't found it, I just got involved after about 4 months or so. But it was founded by a local businessman, or local to where I am, of course. Everyone's from a different area, but he's from Stamford, so he's got a local salon there, and he founded Haircuts for Homeless. Really just saw somebody else doing it and decided that, you know, it's something he could do too. Being a hairdresser, had his own salon for many, many years. He ended up began doing some volunteering at a local underused church hall. He was doing some community work there. And that's sort of one part. On the other part, he saw a guy online who, an article popped up online somewhere in New York, a guy who was going around the streets doing hairdressing for homeless people. And being a hairdresser, thought, I could do that. And being that he already volunteered at the church hall anyway, he thought, well, that'd be a great location. Rather than going around the streets doing it like the guy was doing in New York, he just thought, well, you know, let's see the homeless people coming into this church hall, you know, for the soup kitchen and some other services. I thought, well, I've got a sitting audience. Why don't I just do them there, where they all are, where all the volunteers are? So started off by himself. First session was just him cutting. But quickly other people got involved. So that was in November 2014. I got involved in something like March 2015. So I've been doing it since then. So that was how it was founded, and that was a guy called Stuart Roberts founded it. Now I work with him. We're all volunteers, by the way, but I have been working with him since then. If I had to say what I do, I mean, I started off cutting for him and getting some pictures to sort of build up the Facebook page and the website. But if I had to say what I did there now, I guess it would be project management. I come from a project management background, as well as a bit of a hairdressing background. And so I brought some project management to it. So Stuart and I spent the first few months going and doing all the cutting ourselves, along with some other volunteers. But I think that our Haircuts for Homeless is a little bit different. It's not unique, I don't think. There are people all around the world doing this kind of thing. I've seen people in New York, people in Australia. I've seen other people in the UK doing it. So I'm sure there are people in all countries doing it. It's nothing unique. Where I think our project is a little bit different is that it's not just one person, or it's not just two people. It's actually a network of volunteers. There is a very, even Stuart's inspiration from New York, it's just him. He just goes out doing it, which is great. You know, more power to the guy. And he's got some lovely, very artistic shots that a photographer's taken of him, and they're beautiful. And there's a guy in the UK who's had some recent press coverage, who's got a big Instagram following, a 6-figure Instagram following. But again, it's just him taking his backpack around, going around the streets of London and cutting. Stuart wanted something that could be replicated. He wanted to get more people involved and set more and more projects up. And having run his own business and everything, I suppose saw it from that perspective, that you're not necessarily covered by insurance if you're just going around the streets doing that. And it's putting people who could be involved, maybe a lot of young females who go into hairdressing, you can't really ask them to wander around the streets with a backpack approaching homeless people. So we just thought it would be more practical to use, you know, kind of more official venues that are already engaging with homeless. Also, you're not leaving it to chance by, you know, wandering around the streets hoping you bump into a homeless person. Of course, if you go around London or New York, I'm sure you would, but we just decided to use existing venues like the church hall he was in. I think it was a Salvation Army place, but Salvation Army are great. They have all these really high engagement levels with homeless. They know they do the soup kitchens, they do the overnight shelters or the winter shelters, or other services that they can provide. So it's just like a sitting audience for it, that really do need it. So that's where, and it's a much safer more organised way to recruit volunteers as well. You can bring them down to the hall. We have insurance that is covered for that kind of environment. And we have other staff on hand to support, the Salvation Army staff or the church staff or the homeless shelter staff. It just depends where we are. So probably 70% we're in Salvation Army venues. The other 30% we're in other
Sorry, Lee. Can I just stop you? Somebody's telephone's going off. Sorry, Lee.
No problem.
That was the most unusual ringtone.
That was my BT line, which I don't use.
Sorry, Lee. Sorry. Okay.
Except for today. Yeah, where was I? So, yeah, so about 70% of our venues, I think, something like that, are Salvation Army, because they just have really good ethic, regardless of any kind of religious affiliation. They just seem to have a really good ethic and really good organisation and really good engagement levels with the homeless community. So it kind of works well that way. And all their staff are always like super on hand and really helpful, really attentive to the sessions and supporting, because, you know, every now and then we might need a little hand with some of the clientele. So yeah, I mean, it started in 2014 with just one session in Romford, Greater London, and it kind of quickly grew. We're now up to 20 sites across the UK and overseas actually as well. We've got a project in Dublin, one in Newcastle, one Dublin, one in Belfast, and one's just been launched in New York as well. So it's spreading, and we've got 3 more organised, at least 3 more to be organised in January. That should be launching in January, and another half dozen on the cards that we're currently setting up now, and others in the wings that we haven't even been able to do any organisation for as yet. Like I say, we're all volunteers. We've probably got about, although it's Stuart and I who do the project management side and try to get to all the launches and launch them and sort of give everyone the template for how to go ahead and continue. We're trying to get to all the launches and do all the organisation ourselves. It just takes time because we're both working as well. So yeah, it takes a bit of time. But there are more in the wings because we get requests to go to certain areas and set them up. We just have to put them all on the back burner and just sort of stack them in the diary. I will. How do I share? I'll share my screen in a second just to show you. Bear with me a second because I've lost you now. I'll share my screen. Right, hopefully you can see this now. Can you see that?
Yes, Lee. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So this is our website. So just to, we've got 20 locations at the moment, unless I've forgotten to put one on there, which I don't think I have. Hopefully I'm organised enough with that. I think it helps to give a visual thing of where we are. Actually, if I pan out enough, there you go. So we've got one in New York there as well.
Right.
But more importantly, or more close to home, we've got these. So it gives you sort of an idea of the geographic spread of what we're doing. We actually purposely tried to avoid London because we thought it would be the easiest, and it would be sort of it's a high homeless population and everything. We thought it'd be too easy, so we thought we'd go to more outlying areas first. Although, we launched in Romford and Ilford, but then we thought we'd start trying to spread it. We then actually, after we launched in Belfast, we got a request from the BBC. A guy who lived in Belfast, who works now for BBC London, asked if we have any London projects. So we launched one in London because they wanted to do a TV spot on us, and actually found it the hardest to recruit for. More often than not, we put out an ad to recruit for volunteers, and we may get, I don't know, anywhere between 50 and 100 responses. We put one out for London and got none. None at all. Which staggered me at the time because of the density of population. I mean, we might launch in Brighton or something, but London's got a much bigger population than that, and we actually got zero interest. So it's just me and Stuart and one other lady went to launch it and did the BBC thing. So that was quite a surprise for us. So we've actually tried to avoid London now because, I don't know, maybe the density of population increases on the selfishness scale. I don't know what that is, but
yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Very peculiar. That.
I thought about it at the time, but it was just strange anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go into. I'll go through a few highlights of certain programs that we have. You never know from. I mean, like, even take the BBC spot that we had. We ran on Easter Monday this year, all day, right from the morning, like 7 a.m. till right through till the 9 or 10 o'clock news, whatever it is these days. And in terms of recruitment and levels of interest, we actually had zero. Even though it had been on the national news, we had zero inquiries, zero emails, zero phone calls. It was incredible. How we've launched other projects like Dublin is, we find the centre, we do it, and we actually launch it via Facebook. The whole project has grown from Facebook. Probably 97% or something of the growth has come through there, which just goes to show the power of the platform right now. I mean, we put out maybe a £10 Facebook ad, and we had something like 60 to 100 responses for the Dublin project. And that's the kind of thing we get, between 50 and 100 responses. From a £10 ad, yet you can go on the BBC News and get nothing. Incredible. But it's a very targeted platform anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's how we've grown it, is all through there. I think we've got around just over 3,000 followers on there now, and we've got about 100 volunteers for the project, just to give you an idea of the scale and the level of engagement. A lot of people might hit like on a Facebook page, doesn't mean they're really getting involved, which is another interesting point. But maybe you have to have the 3,000 to get the 100 who actually volunteer. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to jump in, by the way, at any point.
So can I ask, so do specific areas, do they only open on specific days of the week, or depending on when volunteers can actually do?
Yeah, good question. In terms of volunteering commitment, we try and keep it so that it's sustainable.
Yeah.
We don't ask people for too much, otherwise they give too much and then they start to maybe resent the levels of over-involvement that projects can have. So we ask people for 2 hours a month. You think that an average haircut might be 4 to 8 weeks for people. So we try and get to each centre once a month. And we think that's maybe a more sustainable level for a it's just 2 hours a month. Of course, Stuart and I do more because we're doing the planning, so we're doing more like, more than that a day, really, realistically. But yeah, 2 hours a month is what we ask of people, because it's a bit much for all of us to go all around these projects. But each team, remember, is local, so they're all local. It's not much travel time, hopefully, for them. So it's maybe 10 or 15 minutes travel. They're there for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then they're home again. And we feel that's about the right balance. Also, if the team is large, maybe they've got 5 or 10 volunteers. Not everybody's needed every session, so people can come every other month or something.
Yeah.
So it seems to work out quite well. Each project runs roughly once a month.
Yeah. And premises-wise, you look for places that don't charge you, so church halls and things like this. Yeah,
outgoings. Well, I mean, we do have a small amount of funding, but it's not to pay people. It's really to cover costs and the equipment. So yeah, all venues are free because we're using existing centres. Yeah. We couldn't really consider paying for venues, so that's why we link up with homeless centres and Salvation Army places, church halls, that kind of thing.
Good.
Yeah. So let me come back to here, so it gives you an idea of that. In terms of dates-wise, we do try and keep it quite organised. We have dates every January. Now we set dates for the entire year. January to November anyway. In December is a really busy month for hairdressers, so most of the projects don't run in December, although a few are starting to. But we do try and keep dates for the whole year, as you'll see on the calendar. Most of them run on Mondays, because it's most hairdressers' day off. But again, that starts to vary now because we have a lot of freelance hairdressers who can run the projects on other days. How do I come back to this screen? Where are you? Gosh, I'm a bit lost now. I've got to go for a hide. Where is this? How'd you get back, Philip?
Where to?
To the main screen so I can see you guys more.
Okay, just press on.
Right. I got it. Stop share. Yeah. There we go. That's better. Better in the end. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different strands we could go into with it. In terms of funding, actually, I'm going to go to share screen again because you can see our funders then. Where are we? Here. So you can see the sponsors that we have. In terms of equipment sponsors, most of it's quite minimal. It's not something we can rely on. So we do have to buy equipment, unfortunately. But we are big. We have been big lottery funded. We started off with a very, very small lottery fund, just a few thousand, which didn't go very far at all. But we've since been refunded by them, which has helped. We've had a small grant to launch a second project in Ilford. Fords have given us a small grant to buy a little bit of equipment, and we've just had a bit of people's postcode lottery funding as well, which was great. But these are all very small funds, really. This was the funds quickly get depleted because each project we set up, we have to buy a certain amount of equipment for. And like I say, most of the sponsors, like bless them, we appreciate any sponsorship we have, but most of it is minimal. Trip luggage, it might sound like a weird one, but we need cases to put equipment in to get equipment to and from centres. So actually, that works quite well. They give us all the seconds, or maybe things they can't sell on the shop floor. And most of the other bits are quite minimal donations, but all, of course, much appreciated. One of the things that have been criticised for, or we've received some criticised for in the past, on some Facebook posts is, someone will chip in. We'll put out a post to recruit some volunteers, and someone will chip in something along the lines of, wow, a haircut. Don't you think homeless people need a little more than that? Fair point. I guess that might be a perception. Yes, of course they do, but hairdressers can't necessarily help with that. We don't run soup kitchens, and we don't run homeless shelters where we can give people beds for the night or shower facilities. So it's more a case of each person or each profession or whatever, just doing what you can. Yeah. And you'd be surprised how it is after you've had a haircut. You feel better, or if you miss your hair appointment for a month, or you go a month or two over, and you start to feel really scruffy. Yeah. And that's all. And we're showering every day, and we're eating, and we have our professions and all the bits that mean everything to us in our lives. Yeah. We're dealing with homeless people who have really very little in their lives, but you'd be surprised how much pride they do take in their appearance. That before they come to see us, that they shower. They don't really want to be smelling or to have their hair dirty. They're quite I don't know, self-conscious about that, really, I suppose. But they do have personal pride. I mean, that's probably the one thing that they have. I mean, they can't have pride of their house or their car or their profession or anything else. So it's probably the one thing they have is themselves. So actually, it really is important to them. It's something that we've found does give them increase their self-esteem, increases their confidence. More, and I know it's maybe a small thing. There are other things we can derive self-esteem and confidence from, but actually, it's a big thing for them. It's actually made a really big.
It makes a huge difference. I was watching one of Stuart's clips on YouTube yesterday. He was interviewing, he'd cut a lady's hair. You've probably seen it, and he was asking her, how she felt after the haircut, etc. And everything that you actually just say, I think it's really great. I used to work in one of the homeless places just on the other side of London Bridge for a while, one afternoon a week, and exactly what you say. They come in, they make sure they shower first, It's all about that self-esteem and giving a little bit back to them. And I think a haircut is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like having a shower for them. I mean, it might not sound like a big deal. I mean, these homeless people, they need accommodation, they need heat, they need food, they need shelter. So what's a shower to them? But actually, it does mean a lot to them. It means they can get a chance. It's like clothes donation. What's one set of jeans for a homeless person? Well, actually, it can mean a lot. Even like in terms of things that they can receive. We were in Bedfordshire for a while. Now the project we don't run anymore there, but out of that centre. But the staff there said that they had a real shortage on shoes because it was cold winter months. Homeless people can't really sleep at night, it's too cold, so they spend most of the time walking around the streets, and during the day they try and get sleep in libraries or public places before they get moved on, but they walk so much at night that they go through a pair of trainers in a week. So they're trying to hand out a new pair of trainers or a second-hand pair of trainers to people every week because they're walking so much that they wear them through, which is incredible, really. So what does one pair of trainers mean to a person? Well, maybe it keeps them going for the week. But all these little things is what every one person can do. If everybody did just a little bit they can do, it makes a difference to those particular people. Some of our centres have different engagement levels as well. Chelmsford project is quite small. It's not so busy, so maybe less of a homeless population in Chelmsford. Compared to Dublin, where they have maybe over 300 people queuing every morning for breakfast. On busy times of the year, bank holidays and Christmas times and Easter and those things, they can have 600-700 literally outside waiting for the door to open, queuing all down the street, around the corner and everything. It's just crazy. And that's a centre where we cut homeless children's hair as well. And we have pensioners in the 70s and 80s coming in there. You know, it's quite shocking, as you all may know. Homelessness in Dublin is incredible. Or in Ireland generally is just incredible. It's really increased. Some of the people have lost their accommodation, lost their homes because the mortgage rates went up. They lost their homes, so they rented. But then because the demand was there, the rents have gone up like 3, 4, 5-fold in some cases. So many people have been put out on the streets. That's how we end up with kids. We don't see kids on their own. They're with their parents, of course, but they are technically homeless. In terms of homelessness as well, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are out on the street the whole time. Some people are in hostels. Some people are in temporary accommodation, still classed as homeless. But it doesn't mean that they're all that well off. Some people in Dublin even have temporary accommodation in a hotel, which people might hear and think it sounds really cool, but the families come in and tell us, while we're cutting their hair, that it's not that great because they still don't have any food. So they might have a bed for the night, but then they have to get out during the day or while they, before they can get out in the morning, or when they come back in the evening, they can smell dinner coming up from the hotel restaurants and the kids are hungry, but they're not allowed to eat there. They can't even have breakfast there. And they're not even allowed to use the main doors, the main entrances. They have to use fire escape and side exits because they don't want the clientele seeing them. So it's not necessarily the best, it's not enviable position to be in. Some of the clients we have also are ex-homeless, which is quite an interesting thing that I didn't realise. Ex-homeless who maybe spent 10, 15, 20 years out on the street, who after all those years now have accommodation, but their whole life is based around street life. And all their friends are out on the street, all their friends are at the shelter, at the homeless shelters, at day centres. So that's where they go, it's where their life is where their friends are. So they still come down to the centre. They still come there for their life. They haven't managed to build a life outside of that yet. So, we still cut their hair. Don't really see it as an issue because I don't think most people would wish to swap places with them. Same for some of the OAPs we do. The old folks we do in maybe Dublin and places like that. They're not necessarily on the street, but they're on the verge of it in some cases. That they can't even afford to put heat on. Put money on the gas and electricity, so they've not got any heat. That all their money is used in rent, so they can't even buy food, which is how they end up at day centres. And a lot of the days, particularly that Capuchin Centre in Dublin, they won't turn anyone away. There's no questions asked at the door. So they may get a few liberty takers, who knows, but they don't ask questions. They don't ask people to explain their circumstances. So that's how they end up helping families that are in temporary accommodation, or pensioners who are struggling to make ends meet on a very small pension with very high rent, and who can't even afford food. And some of those people say, like, the centre's a lifeline. They can come in, they can shower maybe because they haven't got hot water at home. They can get 3 meals a day. They can get their hair cut even. So it's like a lifeline for them. And some of the centres work in different ways. The centre in Brighton gives people 3 meals a day for, I think it's 50p. They pay 50p. They get 3 meals a day. Dublin is completely free of charge. That's run by Capuchin monks. That was set up in about 68, 69. It's been running, it's free. I think it costs about 3 million a year. It's all charity fundraising. But like I say, they don't ask questions at the door. They feed over 300 people a day. Some of the centres are Salvation Army. But a real big mix, and you really do see sides of homelessness that you've not seen before, really. So I'd encourage, if anyone knows any hairdressers, or if any hairdressers are thinking of getting involved, it's not a big commitment. It's just 2 hours a month. You don't have to do it forever. You don't even have to do it every month. You could just come and do it every 3-4 months if you wanted, or come down and do it once, just as a one-off. But it is a good experience to have. Some people ask if they need to wear gloves and things like this, like if there's any like hygiene and health issues. And I have to say, never. Like, it's really not like that. Like, most people shower and wash their hair before. Hygiene threats. I've actually seen, because I worked in a salon for a number of years, and I've actually seen worse in a salon than I've seen in homeless centres. The state of people's heads and things, because some people come in with in worse states into a salon than I've ever. In fact, I've only seen one case of nits in all the homeless centres I've been in since around March 2015. I've only ever seen one case of nits, which is a kind of a testament to it, that health and hygiene really is no consideration at all, as is like engaging with the community. For the most part,
That's remarkable.
and they're all super grateful and really, really engaging. They've all got their own stories to tell. They're mostly, for the most part, they're real characters. The oldest ever customer we've had was 91. Olive in Brighton. I believe she still goes to that centre. Last time I was there, she was there. 91, and still kind of trying to chat up all the blokes there, as she says. Real character. She only retired when she was 80. Now she ends up in this position when she's homeless, or seeking the temporary accommodation. But a real character. And the youngest we've done is probably about 5 in Dublin, 5 years old. So real big age spread. One of the things that I think is probably one of the prime things that occurred to me that I've seen since I started it was the reasons for homelessness. I really do feel, because occasionally you get like clients who are on substances, or under the influence when they come in. It can cause the occasional issue. But usually that's why we go into organised centres, because staff are on hand who deal with that kind of thing every day. So for the most part, it's an extremely rare occurrence in our sessions. But I do feel that the main cause of homelessness, in my experience, is...
Sorry, Lee. Frank?
Yeah. Sorry.
No worries.
No, my PC doesn't like me. I'm sorry.
No worries. I think the main, from what I've seen, I really do feel, and it's just my gut feel for it, it's just my thinking, that the main cause of homelessness is really a lack of life skills, and it puts people in this position where they become homeless. Because you're sitting talking to someone while you're cutting their hair, and they say, I love this, it feels better already, I can't wait to go and show my mum. And you think, well, if you've got a mum and you're going to go show her, how can she then see you out the door again, shut the door and see you on the street? But of course, years of struggling with that child with substance abuse, substance misuse, you don't know if they've been cases where they've been stealing from their parents and using drugs in the house around other siblings and all these really complicated, really hard to judge why a member of family would see another member of family out on the street, not really casting any judgment, but it just sort of blew my mind a little at first, or a lot.
Yeah, they all have a story to tell, don't they? They all have a story.
They do. I mean, one guy, I was cutting his hair and he said, I'm going to go show my mum and I can't wait to show, I'm seeing my kids later in the week. And it just sort of, he's talking about all his family members. And I thought, how can they all see you homeless and out on the street? But of course, using substances, and I guess they've all reached the end of their tether with it. But it's what led him to start using substances in the first place. It's what some of these people are, I don't know, ex-army. And I think a bit more of a difficult one with them, hard to get the catch on it. I just don't think they've adjusted to civilian life so well. But ex-offenders and people with misusing substances and alcohol, and it really does seem like just lack of life skills and lack of direction early in life. Can't help but think in many cases either parenting or bad associations at school or something that's led to this. Of course, there is the economic factor. We do get a lot of foreign homelessness, who a lot of them are homeless abroad anyway, but they say they come here because it's far easier to be homeless here than it is abroad, because you really get mistreated in some of those, particularly Eastern European countries where we see a lot of homeless in this country. From there, they just get mistreated. They get attacked and spat on and all this. They get really bad treatment over there, and they find that the public just generally treat them better over here. And there's more chance of picking up the odd day of work and things like that.
True.
So I couldn't help but think that really is that lack of life skills in many cases, even to the point where people are losing their property. But maybe it's because they weren't not managing money right in the first place, or they had other priorities. It's really tricky because it goes for most of the population. Everyone's walking around an iPhone or a smartphone worth hundreds of pounds, and perhaps got credit card debt. But no judgments. But I guess it's just the state of the society that puts people in that position. Maybe the education system letting people down a little bit as well. Tricky one. But just sort of blew my mind that you think homeless people, that you imagine like the image from those American movies where someone's in a dirty old coat with a scarf, warming their hands around a barrel. And it's just not like that at all. These are just really normal people with pride and families and hopes and aspirations, really.
Can I ask anybody like to ask Lee some questions?
How far do you think you can take this, Lee? How far do you think haircuts for homeless can go?
I'm surprised. I didn't really ever have a number on it, and I don't think Stuart did too. I think Stuart just wanted to set more up than just the one he was doing. He wanted to spread it. I don't think he ever had a number on it, and I don't think I did. When you get to 7, you think, I can't wait to get to 10. And when you get to 10, you wonder, can I get to 15? We're now at 20. We've got 3 more planned launches for January, 6 more that we're organising now as we speak. So, we're up really to almost 30 anyway. How far can we take it? It just depends on how many people we can recruit volunteer-wise, and that's growing. We're around 100 now, which is more than we could have dreamed of at the beginning. Bear in mind that Stuart's inspiration for this was one guy in New York doing it on his own. So, to think, I would like to do it with more people and do it so that it's duplicatable, replicatable, and spread.
Are the individual projects sort of self-funded and they run themselves? There's no central organisation?
That's a tricky one. At the moment, it's only Stuart and myself who are project managing the whole thing. We do have, for each project, we have a team leader. So that we can, if we get like people inquiring on our website, emailing us or calling us, we can field them out to their local team leader, who can then tell them the score and get them involved and follow up with them. So it really relies on our team leaders. They're all highlighted on our website, or almost all on there at the moment. So we rely on them heavily. They're all involved to a greater or lesser degree. some projects run a bit more regularly than others. But the most dedicated team leaders we have are just amazing. You know, we couldn't do it without them because they're running their own things. In terms of setting up dates, it's pretty much been done centrally by me and Stuart, and then we filled the dates out to everybody. In terms of fundraising, it's all done by us. We'd love it if, at the moment, it's kind of Stuart that's the face of the organisation, and we really are only a community group. We're not even a charity. Organisation might be a grand title for us. It's just a community group, and I say me and Stuart are project managing it because we're doing the bulk of the setting up and the fundraising. So we set up, we fundraise ourselves. Like really, community grants are the easiest way we found. Done a couple of fundraisers, but it's a tough one. It's really tough to raise money for homelessness.
It's a hard one to catch, isn't it?
It is. It's not. I think Stuart was trying to raise some money for because Stuart's a recovered or recovering alcoholic. However, the AA like to class that. They always say recovering. He's 10 years clean, and he makes no secret of this. He talks about it publicly. He's 10 years sober himself, which is why he was doing some work for working with other alcoholics in his local group, his local church hall, which is how he come to end up doing haircuts for homeless. And he's trying to get in community funds for sober living group, and it's just impossible. He was told that at one point by an authority that it's just not sexy enough to really raise funds for. Those words exactly. It's not sexy enough. And from a marketing perspective, you can get their point that it's easier to raise money for animal charities, children's things that get the public heart a little bit more. Alcoholism and homelessness, big public perception that it's all their own fault anyway. So it's a tough one to raise money for, but community funds like the Redbridge Fund that was given to us, it's a bit easier because perhaps the people running those have a bit of a deeper understanding, or like the big lottery have a deeper understanding of the kind of community issues that are around and what caused them. So they're more willing to give funds to things like that, to homelessness or alcohol charities. So we've been doing all the fundraising ourselves via those community funds. So they're all on our website. We kind of publicly thank everyone. The biggest fund we've had is the lottery. But it quickly goes because we then buy all the equipment that the groups use. So we buy stuff, send it out to Dublin, send it to Durham or Newcastle or Brighton or Plymouth or wherever we go. And also we use disposable towels, and we've been using disposable gowns for hygiene reasons. So of course all that's we need to replenish every now and then. So every now and then we need to bulk order a load of disposable towels. Could cost £1,000 or £2,000 even on that to send them out to all the projects. Some hygiene sprays, like antiseptic sprays, because you're out there, you really should spray your equipment down between clients, just so you don't, just for sterilisation purposes. So all of those things are things that need replenishing every now and then. So yeah, the cost is probably higher than you could imagine, or higher than people might imagine. But like I say, no one gets paid. It all goes on equipment. A little goes on travel, where we're travelling to and from to launch projects. So we're all very open about it. Just nobody gets paid. None of the 100 volunteers, none of the team leaders, Stuart myself, nobody's paid. It's all totally voluntary. So in terms of how far it goes, I think Frank asked. Well, it's already 20, and it's already over the UK. It's all in England. It's in Ireland, Northern Ireland. It's in New York, which was only launched this month. So hopefully that will continue. We can't really send funds out to New York. That's going to be one that they have to raise funds for themselves. We can't send funds abroad like that. So I think I think that now we've grown to 100. It's 20 projects, be 30 by the first quarter of next year. I think it could hopefully start to be sort of exponential with the growth. And like I said, although Stuart's the face of it right now, it really isn't that he's the head of it, or it's just someone needs to lead the charge on it. But really, it's all about the volunteers. It's all about the team leaders are key, and it's all about the volunteers who put in those 2 hours a month. You only need a team of 2. Ideally, got a team of 6 or 8, because then you can take it in turns. If someone misses a month, others are there to do it. But it really is all about team leaders and volunteers. Stuart and I are just trying to spread it. We're managing the Facebook page, the social media, we're raising the money that gets it going. If every team leader decided to raise their own funds and manage it themselves, that would be ideal. But it's just a bit much to ask to start them to, start asking them to do project management.
Well, what I'd like to do, Lee, is Rotary in this area, we call it Rotary District 1240. So that's the whole of Essex, a little bit of East London, a little bit of Hertfordshire, popping into a little bit of South Suffolk. We have several meetings every year. We have one big meeting around about April, May time. Next year's district governor, I don't know whether she's organised her speakers, but if you don't mind, if I could pass your details on to her, and if she can fit you in for a talk, that would then get the word out to all the Rotary clubs, especially in Essex, so the areas I said. That then would exponentially go out, because one of the guys, unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. He texted me just now. He's up in Norfolk, and he was really, really interested in getting something up that way going as well. So if you don't mind me sending your details out to her, it'll just be an email with your name and phone number, if that's okay with you. And then I'll text you her name later on, so if you do get a phone call from her, you'll know what it is and what it's about.
Great, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of what anyone can add to the project, we've had a few donations and things like that, but that's not always it's great. It means we can grow. It means we can spread the word. It means we can help more people and help them with, even if it gives them a bit more confidence, makes them feel a bit better about their day and things, makes them feel a bit more worthwhile. All funds help us do that, but also just spreading the word, really. Any hairdresser friends, who either might just encourage them to come down to one of the projects, even for a one-off, or encourage them to maybe take on a team themselves. Most volunteers, I'd say it's about 2 hours a month. For a team leader, all they're doing is field, like when we get inquiries, we pass them on to them, so they're sending your text or email out, and maybe just making sure that they've got enough volunteers to run their project for the month. So it's maybe 3-4 hours max a month for a team leader. But actually, you know what? When you're in a salon or when you're out freelance and you're talking to your clients, it's quite a nice thing to talk about. It gives you something extra to talk about, and makes it. I think your clients are often a bit more interested in it, because you do something that's not just cutting. They don't ask you about who else's hair you cut for money, but they might ask you about which homeless centre you're in and ask you things about it. So it's quite an interesting thing to do. So anyone, if you want to give the number, their website, the contact details to anyone, more than happy.
Lovely, thanks. I'll do that, Lee, because every little bit that helps, I think, is going to go a long way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody?
For tap dancing.
Tap dancing somewhere. All right.
I don't know much about that, I'm afraid.
Tap dancing.
Bye. One thing I would say is, I know Philip, you mentioned about a video you'd seen on Facebook.
Yeah.
If you go to our Facebook page and go to the video section, you'll see a whole bunch of videos up there of just small snippets. Some of them are just 10 seconds long, but it just shows the team in action. In case people can't picture in their mind how it would exactly be. Cutting in a homeless centre. You might see videos out there of people cutting on the street, but that's not what we do. So it's just a really normal environment, and it's not daunting at all. People are often nervous when they come down, but it's not daunting at all. In fact, it's probably less daunting than going first into a salon and cutting. But there are some little representative videos on the website as well. I think there's one over here somewhere. Where it is. There's one down here that's just like a little okay, the music's going to come on, I think, but it's like a little highlights reel of some images and things. Maybe it's worth, and that's only a minute long, but there's a nice one on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. That might be the one you saw, Philip. This was a lady who actually, she talks about in the video, she'd been suicidal just a couple of weeks before, and she's talking about how it actually made her feel. Her hair was long and all very dry and broken, and she had it cut short and restyled by one of our volunteers, and she was just really made up and over the moon about it. And she was really sweet to talk to, and that's why he ended up interviewing her.
Mm,
So that's a nice little video to watch anyway.
yeah, yeah.
That's the one that probably really gets across what we do.
Okay, I'll include that in the.
It's nothing more than that, but
Yeah.
for the person, it can mean a lot more, and I think that's the that's the point of it.
Yeah.
And
I
a nice video to watch for if you've got just a couple of minutes to spare on that one.
Yeah, I'll include that clip on the website on their page as well on Wednesday. So yeah, it's good. Okay.
Yeah, sure. That's probably the nicest one to watch. You
Yeah.
just get across what it can mean. For some people, it's just a haircut, but for others, it can mean a lot more. Which
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
nice. And that's why you do it. It's for the ones who really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Frank, could I ask you to offer a vote of thanks to Lee for tonight?
Yes, of course. I'd really like to thank you, Lee, for appearing this evening and explaining exactly what you do. I think it's true enough that most people's perception of homeless people is, as you say, gathered around a burning brazier, huddling against the cold. And it isn't like that. But they get a bad press, and I think really it's a way of blaming them to hide the faults of society that have put them in the position they're in. As you said, there are some that have found their own way there, but a lot of them, it's not the case at all. There's a whole world out there that the majority of us just know nothing about. And it only takes a little bit, I think, sometimes to raise a person's self-respect and help them feel totally unwanted, or not unwanted, should I say. So thank you for bringing that to us. And I'm sure that we all have found it very, very informative. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm happy to, if anybody at any point, we can do talks online or come around to any groups and speak live or whatever, either Stuart or myself. More than happy to do that anytime. So if anybody needs or wants that, then just ask. We're more than happy to do that.
Lovely. Many thanks, Lee. Thank you so much for your time. That's really, really appreciated. So much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Phil. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Lovely. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Lee. You take care. You take care.
Thank you.
You can stay online and listen if you wish, or we'll wish you a go on. Yeah, no worries.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Lee.
Great.
Thank you. Just a quick update, guys. Thursday, as you know, we're down Hardy Park